Do you really need additional arm isolation exercises like tricep extensions, bicep curls, wrist extensions and wrist curls in addition to your regular compound movements in order to optimally develop your upper arms and forearms? Well, today we are going to answer that question. And for those who are new here, my name is Alphonse. Here we talk about how to maximize your results from your training with as little time in the gym and with as little risk of injury as possible. First of all, we have to clarify what we actually are asking for here. We are asking for what is optimal, not what is effective. And I can say right away, are compound pushing and pulling exercises going to be effective for stimulating size and strength increases in your upper arms? Yes, they are going to be very effective. And the thing is, for a lot of people, effective is enough. Optimal simply isn't worth the extra time and effort for a lot of people. But we are looking for what is optimal. And so let's talk about that. Let's start with the upper arms, the elbow extensors and the elbow flexors. Most people, when they think about training their triceps, when they think about the function of the triceps, elbow extension, they think about the forearm rotating around the elbow joint while the upper arm is fixed. They think about the forearm as the only lever against the triceps. And so if they are doing a compound pushing exercise like a chest press or a push-up and the forearms are close to perpendicular to the line of resistance, they think that the triceps must not be working very hard. But they forget that if the upper arm is fixed like in a tricep extension, the triceps cause the forearm to rotate around the elbow joint. But if the forearm is fixed, the triceps cause the upper arm to rotate around the elbow joint and in turn move the body. And so when you are doing something like a tricep extension, the lever against the tricep is the forearm. But when you're doing something like a compound pushing exercise, like a push-up or a chest press, the lever against the tricep is the upper arm. That's the only difference. The triceps are still being loaded. The only difference is the lever. Is it the upper arm or is it the forearm? And it's the exact same thing with the biceps. If the upper arm is fixed, like in a biceps curl, the lever against the biceps is the forearm. But if the forearm is fixed, like in a pull down or a chin up, the lever against the biceps is the upper arm. Again, the biceps are still being loaded. It is still working against meaningful resistance. The only difference is the lever. And so the consensus that the elbow extensors and elbow flexors aren't working very hard in compound pushing or pulling movements is just flat out wrong. And I wanted to debunk this in this video because I knew that if I didn't, there was gonna be a lot of people in the comments saying, oh well, you need to do biceps and triceps isolation exercises because they are not working hard enough in your compound movements. If you want to develop your triceps and your biceps as well as the other elbow flexors, all you have to do is to perform elbow extension and elbow flexion against resistance. And as long as the elbow flexors and elbow extensors are working against meaningful resistance and they are being relatively continuously loaded, they are going to be effectively stimulated to get bigger and stronger. Of course, as long as the exercise is being performed with adequate intensity, ideally to momentary muscular failure. And for some people, just doing this with compound exercises is going to be optimal. I can tell you that I am one of these people. If I try to perform additional arm isolation exercises like tricep extensions and bicep curls in addition to my regular pushing and pulling compound movements, I will start to plateau on both my pushing and pulling movements and those arm isolation exercises. And that is partially because I have learned now to train so intensely on my regular compound movements that doing that and also doing arm isolation exercises is too much for my arms to recover from. And I know this because I have tried and I have experimented with it, and I actually saw better gains in my arms after removing my additional arm isolation exercises than when I was doing them. But some people might see better short-term results from adding these additional arm isolation exercises. But since both approaches, doing it with or without arm isolation exercises, can be effective, they are both going to get you to the exact same point in the long run, which is your genetic potential of how much muscle you can possibly build. The only difference being in adding a biceps curl and tricep extension, if you are someone who can actually tolerate it and actually sees a benefit from it, might get you there a little bit faster. But I doubt that most people who are not on performance enhancing drugs, I should add, who are actually training properly with proper form and proper intensity, are going to see any significant benefit from adding these additional arm isolation exercises. But again, this is considering that you are training properly. If you look at the way that the vast majority of people who go to the gym train, which is with very poor form and not with a lot of intensity, it makes sense that a lot of these people would see a benefit from adding these additional arm isolation exercises. And that is because adding these for those people is going to probably help them to get a little bit more of inroad and therefore a little bit better of a stimulus. But again, if you are actually training properly, in most cases I doubt that you are going to see any significant benefit from adding these additional arm isolation exercises. And by the way, if you want to learn how to do a proper set to failure, watch this video that I'm going to link down in the description as well after this one. And after you watch that one, also watch this video that I'm also going to link down in the description about why you only need to do one of these properly performed sets per exercise if you actually perform them properly. But even if you are training properly, there are probably going to be some people who might see some short-term benefit from adding these exercises. And so if you want to find out if you are one of these individuals, what you do is you keep accurate records of your workouts. Try not doing your arm isolation exercises for a month or two, and then take measurements of your arms to see how much they have grown, and then try doing them for a month or two, and then take measurements again. If one seems to work better than the other, then stick with that. And if there's no difference, then why waste your time doing them? Just make sure you're taking your measurements at the same time of day, by the way. Okay. That was the upper arms. Now onto the forearms. If you are doing a pressing movement and your wrists are relatively straight, there is no significant lever against the forearms. And so those muscles are going to be doing a little bit of stabilizing work, but they are not going to be fatigued to a point where they are going to be significantly stimulated. And gripping in pulling exercises isn't enough either. There are about 20 muscles in the forearms and only about 3 of them are involved in gripping. And so unless your grip is failing on your pulling exercises, which it shouldn't be doing anyway because that's going to limit your back work, they are not going to be really significantly stimulated in order to grow either. And so if you optimally want to develop your forearms, you need to include a wrist extension and wrist flexion exercise into at least one of your workouts. But anyways guys, that was all for this video. I really hope you found it helpful, and if you found it even a little bit helpful, please don't forget to leave at least a like on this video, and if you want to get more videos like this in the future, click the subscribe and ring that notification bell so you can be notified the next time I upload. But with that being said, I see you boys in the next one. Peace.